Most people think explaining a subject to deal to a seller is the hardest part of the process. They think the seller is going to panic, hang up the phone, or accuse them of trying to scam them. But the truth is, most sellers are actually relieved once they understand how it works. In this video, I'm going to give you the exact script I personally use to explain subject to deals to sellers so they feel comfortable moving forward. And by the end of this video, you know exactly what to say without sounding pushy, shady, or confusing. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Frederick Ward. I'm a real estate investor, and for the last 10 years, I've been buying property using creative financing strategies like Subject To. I've used this strategy to acquire multiple properties without going through the traditional banks. And today, I want to show you how I explain this strategy to sellers in a way that builds trust. Before you even explain Subject To, the most important thing you have to do is slow the conversation down and build trust. Because if the seller doesn't trust you, it doesn't matter how good your explanation is. So the first thing I say is this: Mr. Seller, before I explain how this works, I just want to make sure I understand your situation. Then I ask a question like, why are you looking to sell? How soon do you need to move? What would make this situation a win for you? This does two things. First, it helps you understand the seller's real problem. Second, it makes the sellers feel heard instead of feeling like you're trying to sell them something. Once I understand their situation, I say something like this: based on what you're telling me, there may be a way for me to help you without you having to go through the traditional selling process. One option is something called a subject to agreement. Now, notice what I did. I didn't jump straight into explaining the deal structure. I simply introduced the idea, then I asked for permission. Would you like for me to explain how that works? When you ask for permission, the seller becomes more open to listening. Once they say yes, that's why I keep the explanation very simple. This is almost word for word what I say. A subject to deal simply means I purchased the property, but the existing mortgage stays in place. So instead of you paying the mortgage every month, I take over making those payments. The loan stays in your name with the bank, but I become responsible for the property and the payments. Then I pause because you want to give a seller time to process what you just said. The first thing most sellers worry about is this: if the loan stays in my name, what happens if you don't pay? So I answer that before they even ask. That's a great question, and most sellers ask that. The way I protect the sellers is by making the payments directly to the lender and providing proof of payment every month. My job is to solve your problem, not create another one. This reassures them that you understand their concerns. Then I explain why some sellers choose this option. A lot of sellers choose this option when they need to move quickly or selling traditional would take too long. It also helps sellers who may not have enough equity in the property to pay closing costs or even pay a realtor commissions. This allows them to move forward without coming out of pocket. Now the seller understands why this strategy exists. So I usually say something like this. For example, I recently worked with a seller who needed to relocate quickly for work. Their home had a mortgage, and putting it on the market could have taken months. Instead, I took over the payments, maintained the property, and it allowed them to move on without worrying about the house. Now, the seller sees that this is something you actually done before. Some sellers may worry about it being legal, so I say this: everything we do is documented through a real estate attorney and the proper closing process. This ensures that both you and I are protected through the transaction. Now they're building up more trust with you. After explaining, I turn it back to the seller. Based on what I explained, do you feel like that could be a possible solution for your situation? Notice I didn't force anything. I'm simply asking if it might work. If they say yes or show interest, then I continue. Great. The next step would be simply reviewing the numbers and making sure it works for both of us. If it does, we can move forward with a simple agreement and handle everything through a closing attorney. Now you're moving through the deal naturally. If you're new to subject to deals, here's the biggest mistake I see investors make. They try to over-explain the process. You don't need to explain every technical detail. Your job is simply to help the sellers understand you take over those payments, they get relief from the property, everything is handled legally. Simple explanation builds confidence. Complicated explanation create fear. Subject to deals can be an incredible solution for the right seller in the right situation. But the key to making these deals work is communication and trust. If you just focus on solving the seller's problem instead of just trying to get a deal, you'll be surprised at how many opportunities open up. If you want to learn more about creative financing and how investors are buying real estate without traditional banks, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I share strategies like this every week. And if you're interested in learning how to structure deals like this step by step, check the links in the description. I'll see you in the next video.